Hey everyone, and welcome back to GoodKnitKisses. I'm your host Kristen, and today we are working on some loops yarn. This is any type of loops yarn with these little loops on it. They're pre-stitched in loops. And this is our Monday morning broadcast, which actually I will be changing. So this is our weekly broadcast, and we're going to be changing the day of the week, but not the content. So if you notice my kind of rough voice, I have been, oh my gosh, sick. I got the flu. Apparently it's a really bad strain of flu, I guess. And I've lost my voice over the last couple of weeks. So I've got a bit of a rough voice today. If you'll have a little patience with this different kind of voice from GoodKnitKisses. So anyway, I'm going to welcome everyone. I won't spend too time talking about all that because you can tell it's kind of rough on my throat. But I did want to bring to you a live tutorial instead of shirking away. I can't do a, I'll probably just have this push onto YouTube at the end of the week this week. Anyway, I feel so bad that I haven't been able to do any tutorials because I love doing them, but also I want my voice to sound like normal. If this was my normal voice, it'd be fine, but it's not. So anyway, hey everyone. I'm going to say hello and then we'll dive in here. Hi Alicia and Lori. Hey Joan and Lydia. Good morning, Joanne. Thank you so much. Hey Tom. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Hey, Carol, I see you jumping on. Yeah, actually, I even changed my lip color. I was like, I gotta have a little bit more color today after being sick. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, did I mess up on my lipstick? Okay, I need to not touch my face. Hey, Jeanette. Ajima Riviera, thank you. You're in Puerto Rico for the first time. Well, hi. You're catching my not great voice. So just if you're just now joining me, I have not been on in several weeks now and had videos released. But of course, I do have my GoodKnitKisses channel on YouTube and of course here on Facebook. Please share this video if you want other people to learn how to knit without needles on some loops yarn. This is really easy. I'm going to give you some practical tips. I just taught my friend Sean last night who came to my house, and I was like, I need to show some of these extra tips to people, so I'll do that on the broadcast today. We will be changing the weekly broadcast soon to Fridays. I think I'm going to rearrange my schedule. My husband has been off for a while on Mondays, and I think it's here to stay. And it works really well when my kids have like those, like MLK Day, Columbus Day, Labor Day, all those kind of things, because we're in the States. So it'll be good. So I'm giving y'all kind of a pre-warning for anybody who's regular coming in. But thank you so much for joining me for the first time. And go visit my my channel to hear my normal voice. Cheryl says, good morning from the cold, Handmade, Saskatchewan. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I don't know anyone in Saskatchewan. Well, I guess I know Cheryl now. Hey, Shelly in upstate New York. Teresa, yes. Are you going to make me a hot toddy? She says, need a hot toddy to help your voice. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to dive in. I've been talking for a few minutes here, so I want to get into the tutorial because I don't want anybody to be not getting what they wanted to come here for. So if you have any kind of loops type yarn, it doesn't matter the brand. I'll tell you what I'm working on, and we'll probably give you a link to one of the patterns that I'm going to refer to just simply for a technique. But this is not sponsored by anybody. I just want to, first I want to say, you know, even if you're a beginner, you can achieve this. If you're a crocheter and you've wanted to learn how to knit, or maybe you never conceptualized learning how to look at stitches, this is a really great way to do it. So I'm going to do like a very small basic sample of how you would make a scarf from beginning to end. You can get a, it's basically about 72 inch. I figured out last night, we ended up getting one scarf out of one ball. The pattern on this particular one shows 3 balls. But anyway, I've got 8 stitches wide, and you can create a nice long scarf Yeah, it's not super long, but I think it was about 2 arm lengths of mine, and I'm 6 foot tall. So anyway, let me scroll up, say hi to a few more people, and then we'll flip the camera and begin. Hey, Donna in Wyoming. Yeah. Excuse me, I can't even. That's not Wyoming. Sorry. Wendy, hey, New Hampshire. I've got my hot coffee here. I wish I had like the hot toddy. So, oh, a shot of whiskey. Lisa says, all right, this is Rated G channel. All right, we got about 50 people on here. I'm going to flip the camera and let's get going. We're going to talk about loops type yarn. Again, it doesn't matter the brand. I'm going to flip this over and switch out my lighting for a second. All right, let me lower the camera. Try and get right in here as soon as I can. Patient, a little bit of patience. I gotta make sure I can see what I'm doing. The thing about me is I like to get low where you can see my stitches. Okay, so what you see here, I'm gonna kind of walk through what you see in the frame here. What you're looking at is, this is part of a project. I did this bolero jacket. I can't show the whole thing on frame, but basically it's a thing that goes around your arms in the back, your back where your shoulders are, and your arms come out here. And this is actually kind of a short sleeve, sort of half sweater top. It's got a stockinette back and this open back here, and you put your arms in. Anyway, that's what the pattern is. It's not about the pattern, but I wanted you to see this technique. So when you begin on stitching on this loops type product, they are pre-stitched in loops. Okay, so there's loops, and then they have this little piece of thread in between to hold them together, okay, to make that loop. Okay, when you see yardage on here, you actually need to think of that as like 1 foot would be a measured width across your project. So like if this was 6 inches, which I think this is actually a little bit longer, wider than that, but let's say it's 18 yards, you actually want to say, well, the 1 yard would actually be maybe 3 or 4 rows. And so that way, because it's sewn together, because if you actually cut all this open, the yarn in here would be much longer. That's why when you look at the weight on this ball, it says 16.4 yards. That's actually the worked length or width, okay? But because it's still a 100-gram ball, it's still 3.5 ounces or 15 meters. So anyway, it's the same as normal. Okay, no, well, this is this particular brand. It doesn't really matter. Okay, when you start, you have this raw edge, right? And it doesn't look like normal knitting, okay? Normal knitting, you would see like a nice edge on it. So I have a solution for that. So if you look here, this is actually the bind off. So this is actually the ending, and it always has this chained edge, and that's when you bind off on any knitting, you're going to get this nice little chained edge. So I came up with a way. This is actually the beginning. This is where we started, but notice it doesn't look like this edge, okay? It looks like this with this little chained edge. Now, it does appear on the edge here on the side and not on the end like this. So if I closely inspect it, no, they're not identical. However, I was able to get that raw edge to look like this. Give us some likes or loves if you think this is a cool thing to have it do, because it gives it that finished look, right? Because nobody's holding your arms together and going, oh, let me compare, you know, they're not. So anyway, it looks really cool. So I'm going to show you how to begin this. And someone says, pray you're feeling better. I'm having trouble ending on my loom. Can you please show how to end? Okay, I'm not going to do any loom knitting on here, but you can check out those on my channel. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to get out my yarn. Okay, and the best way to do that is to just go ahead and pull the yarn out. Here, I'm going to find the end. Where's the end? Okay. All right, I'm going to set this off to the side. It's just going to be down on the floor here. Let me move this. Okay, so that's a raw edge. This is what we're going to do to it, and then this is our goal, is to make it look like the the ending edge. Excuse me. I'm going to kind of get this cleaned up just a little bit and snip off the end here because we don't want that. All right, so I'm going to use a couple of like stitch markers. You can use clothespins or any kind of thing that works for you. I love these little things. I think they're Susan Bates or something. So I'm going to leave these extra 2 loops, okay? And you'll see why in a bit, because I need them to make a tail. You'll end up like you can cut these open to make a tail you can weave in. And I'm just marking them because I don't need them. So I'm not actually going to work those. So I'm going to do something where I leave extra loops so I can finish it out like this. So I'm going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In this case, I'm going to leave aside 8 that I'm not going to use. Okay. We're going to pretend like it's not there. All right. So I'm going to work from this side. It doesn't really matter. You can work however you want. But, so I'm going to start my first line, this one. This is kind of the foundation row. We don't really say cast on for the loop. I mean, you can say it, but like, because it's not a regular, like a knitting loom or knitting needles, you're not really casting on. So this is kind of my foundation row. So I'm going to have 8 in my foundation row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now I want to do row 1. So I'm going to turn this to the back like this. And I'm going to put this working loop from my working yarn. I'm going to put the working loop through my next loop. When you start seeing directions in this kind of yarn, it always says next loop. So my next loop is the next stitch I would be working. So I'm going to pull this through here up like that. And it makes a knit stitch, and it has this classic V, this V shape like this. Well, like that V shape. Okay. Now I'm going to make another knit stitch here, and then I'll make a purl to make this a ribbing here, and then make the purl kind of jump to the back. So we're just going to take our next working loop and put it through the next loop and pull it up. So now we have 2 live loops. Live is just, they're active and they're just kind of hanging out until we're ready to use them again. Now I'm going to go to my next loop. I'm making sure not to twist this strand, okay? So I'm making sure this is all nice and flat. And then I'm going to do a purl. So I actually take my working loop and I put it on top of my next loop. And then I just push it through that loop to the back. And you pull it through, and it makes this this purl bump. Some people also refer to, like, imagine this is the back of someone's head, and this is like the scarf hanging around their neck. Okay, so that's like a scarf. I'm sorry for my rough voice. If you're hearing me for the first time today, this is not my normal voice. I've been sick. So now I'm gonna do a pattern that's a 3x1. It's a 2 knit 1 purl pattern, and my multiple is 2, so I'm doing a 3 + 1 multiple. So I've got 3 stitches. I'm going to do 3 more the same way, and then we're going to finish it off. So I'm going to do 2 more knits. So we're going to put the next working loop behind the next loop, just like we did the first 2. I got a knit stitch. I'm going to pull it over and do a knit stitch. And on after row 2, we're going to address this thing that we've got hanging out here. Okay. So now I've got the purl that I need to do. I'm going to put the working loop on top of the next loop and pull it through, and I made another purl stitch. Now, unlike regular knitting, normally you wouldn't see this kind of strange little thing here. Again, that's the part that's the stitch, the thing holding these loops on here together. You wouldn't normally see that. But after a while, it kind of disappears, right? You see how that kind of, that look disappears, and then you get the cool look. Like this one's actually done with cabling. I'm not going to do the cabling on camera, but there is a video showing how to do some cabling on my channel, and we can get you that link. Excuse me. Let me move this out of the way. The next one, so we got our set of 3. So we got 2 knits, 1 purl, 2 knits, 1 purl, and I'm going to finish out my row with 2 more knits. So we're just going to pull them through. All right, and then pull the next one through. Okay, so I was careful to have all these like not twisted up, right? Okay, now you see where I'm coming to where I had set aside those 8 stitches plus the 2. I'm letting that hang. I'm not touching it. Okay, we're going to use the working yarn and bend this back. We're going to work this last stitch again. Don't skip it. Use that stitch, pull it through. And then we're going to go the next one, pull it through. And you're just going to follow what you did the pattern, the row before. And I like doing this rather than do stocking knit the whole way. Like if I did knit stitches the whole way, you get this really pretty look. But in the back, it's kind of rough looking. See how that's kind of rough? And making it in ribbing makes it so much prettier. I mean, see how pretty this is with a ribbing? And I like this scarf because I'll show you what it looks like on the back. It's really nice. It has a different kind of effect on the back. So now we're going to do another purl stitch. At the end of this row, you're going to see how I address these beginning strands, okay? And then that way, once you get going, you'll have this this pretty thing at the end. So when you get to the final part, it's actually less work when you get done with your project. So I'm just following this across. Don't worry if you can't follow me now. You can always back up this video later and watch it again. Okay, so this is what my knitting looks like. Let me put it down. All the live loops or active loops are at the top. Okay, so if I was to go away, I put like a stitch marker or some scrap yarn on here, like if I had to go to the bathroom, or if I didn't have any animals in the house, I could just lay it down, or kids. But if you start pulling on this, of course, it'll undo any live loops. All right, now we're on this side over here, and oops, I forgot to throw away my scrap away. It keeps getting caught. We're over here now. It has this nice raw edge just like this one. Well, I call it nice. It's not nice. I want to get this look, right? So I'm going to pull these loops through. Actually, you know what? Let me do one more row and then I'll pull this through because it's really hard to see it because I'm going to have a couple of lines of yarn over here. Oh, wait. No. Sorry. Scratch that. Let me go back. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do this technique. This is a new thing. I haven't showed anybody. I'm going to do 2 things in one. The end here where I have these 2 marked here, I'm going to do something different. If you see me do this technique on the bolero shrug, I'm adding something to it. So we can go ahead and take our stitch marker off, and I've got my 8 loops here. I'm going to take my next working loop and put it between column 1 and column 2. So push the loop up. And now I've got a loop in between. Okay. I want to actually back up, and I'm showing you that I'm going to be going in between. But this first loop, I'm actually going to skip. Okay. But that's what we're going to do all the way across. I'm skipping this one because I want a nice finished edge here. So anyway, I'm going to pull this loop up. Okay. This next loop. And then I'm going to go into the next space, and I'm going to pull this loop up. All right, I'm not going to twist it. I'm just pulling them up. It looks weird. I'm going to go to the next one and go in between these spaces. It works better in between the spaces rather than in between the stitches. It just does. It just works better from my trials. That's what I'm saying. So in between all these rows, or columns, I'm sorry, not rows. So you're just going along this bottom edge where this not so pretty trim is. And we're going to go through this last one. Okay. And now I've got these extra 2 hanging here. Okay. Go back to where we started. And I'm going to pull through this first loop that's just hanging out. I'm going to pull the next loop through. And it makes a little chain. See the little V-stitch, like a knit stitch facing this direction? Now I'm going to get the next loop and pull it through. So I'm pushing it through this one over here that I just did. All right, pull it over. You can see that chain. See the chain? You'll see it better when I keep going. So I'm going to take this one, pull it through. Okay, get the next one. Keep going. You see? So it's just making that chain along the top edge. Now the end here is not so nice, but it makes it better than it was. pull it right on through. Keep going. However long your project is, whatever you make a blanket, you make a scarf, you make a bolero jacket, I don't care. All right, so now we're back to these two goofy stitches here. So you take this and you pull this last one through, and then you can actually like pull both of them through like that. And now I've finished out that row. And now I can actually take this next loop, and it makes it a little bit short. Now I can do one of two things. I can take my scissors, and I'm not going to cut it open right now, but you can imagine what you do. You pull it open like this, and then you take this thread here and you clip it, okay? And then it opens it up, and then you take this next one and you clip it, and it opens it up. So you end up getting like a 4-inch strand or something, right? And they're almost 5 centimeters. And so then you would just weave it in the back. But I'm going to do something else. I'm going to actually pull it up to this next row here, and I'm going to tuck it in with this last loop that I did. Okay? I'm just going to tuck it in here. And then I'm going to go flip it along the back side, and I'm going to tuck it in behind this one that I just did. So I have 2 loops at the end of my second row and 2 loops at here. So the first 2 stitches. I'm going to make sure I don't have my stitches, make sure the loops aren't twisted. Okay, now I'm ready to continue my scarf. I'm going to bend my working yarn back this way because I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to find my next working loop, right? This one here. And I'm going to go through both of these stitches at the same time. Make sure they're stacked on each other neatly. Pull through. Go to the next one. Make sure I'm grabbing both stitches, both loops. Pull through with the next working loop. And I have those 2 done. Now, it looks bulky and weird, but I promise if you keep going here, I'll just keep going here. Follow my pattern. I've got a purl stitch. I promise you won't notice it. You won't notice it later. You've got a really nice finish. And once you get to the end, you already know how to bind off, how to finish off your knitting because you just did it down here. You'll just end up, you'll actually have to weave in a tail at the end on that part. But you will have already done the technique that you need to know for later. And I'll do it again on this video. I'm going to make a short sample, and then you'll get to see it all in this video. So you'll want to share this video so you can save it to your wall, or you can save it in your favorites folder, whatever you got there, whatever technique. I'm probably going to put this on YouTube too, so all the instructions I'm saying for Facebook might be different on YouTube. Pull this through. Through. So what I'm doing is you've got 2 knits, a purl, 2 knits, a purl. Where is my stitch? Okay. And then here we go. Here's the bulky part. Let's do it. And now we're back to single loops here. Well, we already were, but it's hiding it now. Now, it has a little bit of a hike. It hikes up just a little bit, but who cares? Nobody's really going to see that with this super bulky yarn. I'm going to bend it back. We'll just do another few rows so you can really see that it's not seen. I taught my friend Sean last night. If y'all want to see a really cute video for the next 24 hours, and I think I'll actually screen record it and upload it onto YouTube as well. So it'll be in both places. I may upload it on Facebook. But I did it on, oops, I did the wrong thing. Let me undo this. I'm going to show you how to fix this. This was supposed to be a purl. So just undo the one and then purl it. So anyway, oh gosh, see, I messed this row up. I'm trying to talk and I'm not thinking. Okay, let me purl this. So anyway, if you want to see a fun video, my friend Sean and Kelly, they're moving back into town. They used to be our neighbors. Long story short, we've known them longer than that, but 16 years ago, they lived next to us. So Kelly wanted to make, and she wanted to learn how to knit, and she was nervous about learning how to knit. And anyway, I said, well, I'm going to show you something that doesn't use any tools, and then you could just learn stitches. And she's like, what? So I showed her. She loved it. She's like, I'm going to make this scarf for Sean. I'm like, okay. So my husband and he are sitting there next to each other chatting. And then she told him she's making this thing. And my husband mentioned that he's really smart and everything. He said, hey, did you know that knitting is good for coding? Like, you know, it's like for higher thinking and, you know, and it's also relaxing, blah, blah, blah. And he's telling him all this stuff. Actually, my husband's never knitted, but he's heard me say all this. So he's saying it. And Kelly says, hey, Sean, you want to learn how to knit? And so he's like, sure. So he jumps over and he starts knitting. And she's already got like maybe 15 inches done. Y'all, he finished his scarf. Like, he didn't even want to stop and eat his dinner. We ordered pizza because we were going to go out to eat. And nobody wanted to leave because we were knitting. And had so much fun. And he was like, one more row, just one more row. And he was saying it was so relaxing. Things I was not asking, you know, he was just saying naturally. So he got straight from the hard learning part, which he learned everything he needed to do within like a row and a half. Now, he didn't start it. I helped him start it for Kelly and them. But he was just, as my old boss used to say, blowing and going, just kind of blowing right through it. All right, I'm going to get to the end here. Do you see how in the beginning we had extra stitches here? So it was this second row. These two stitches have double stitches on them. So this is the technique that's used when, I'm sorry, it's these stitches here. So these have the double stitches. So when you want to add color and you want to go on to another row, you just put the new color in front and you put the old two loops behind it and just keep going. And then it changes the color. Or you can like leave the extra two from the other color and then weave in the tail later, you know, if it's going to be something you see from the back. Anyway, I want to show you what this looks like from the back. If you like this stitch pattern, this is what it looks like. Isn't that pretty? So this was a very masculine scarf. Oh, well, actually, I mean, you can feminine, masculine, whatever you want to do. I mean, either one. But this is the style we decided on for Sean. And it's cool because when he had it kind of flipped around and tied on him, you saw this side and then you also saw the other side. So I'm going to do one more row and then I'll bind off because I want you to see a nice size sample here. I'm not really reading your comments because I'm just concentrating. But I'll answer questions here in a minute. So if you have a question for me, be sure and type it in the comments. If you like what you see, be sure and share it so you can save it or show your friends. If you've been wanting to teach them how to knit, this is a really great gateway into learning how to knit because you get to really see the stitches right in front of you. There's nothing inhibiting you from seeing them. They're worked different on needles or knitting loom, like as far as like how you move the yarn and all that. But anyway, but this way you can kind of see how it goes. Now, I'm also going to show you, I left one out, I didn't tell you, but I left an extra out. I want to show you, if you come back and you go, oh my gosh, I have an extra one. Yeah, you can undo them, but if you find it way farther down, like you flip it over on the back and you're like, oh my gosh, I have this extra loop, you can actually take that loop and tuck it into another stitch because now you know that it can handle that bulk. So I can just take this loop and put it back behind it. Okay, I can actually do that. Or if you're like, oh, it fell out and maybe actually it belongs to, say, this one, then you can do that. Okay, so you just keep going. All right. And then, all right, now I'm going to do the bind off. Are you guys ready for the bind off? Let me make sure you don't have any questions before I move on. I can kind of, I don't want to railroad you and go too far. So hold on, let me scroll. Love, love, love the stitch, Dinah says. Do you have a video on how to make hats with this loopy yarn? No, I do not, but I can. If you guys are interested in making a hat with this, write hat. Okay. Carol says, so pretty. Alicia, I'm so glad there's something out there for people who can't seem to knit or loom knit. Great for elderly people. Absolutely. I would challenge you all to grab a couple of balls of yarn and go to a local retirement home and teach somebody how to do it. So I got to get me a drink. Hold on. I had to get some warm coffee. Lydia says he was a speed knitter. Yeah, it was so funny. So check out my story on Instagram right now. It's about an hour long. You can play it and let it like sit in the background because it's so funny. He's hilarious. Not a fan of loops and thread. Great for those who like it, but great info. Yeah. So I understand, Allison. Also, this one is a boucle. Loops and threads. There's also one that's a chenille. It's more of a blanket yarn. You know, it has the central thread and it's real fuzzy around it. I don't have any right in front of me. I'm looking around me, but no, I don't. Do I have any? No. Okay, I don't have any within reach. So let me read the notes here. Yes, you can work in the round. Oh, you were asking about this. Okay, so this here in the round, Alicia, is this is a bolero jacket. You can work in the round, and I show how to do that on my video. However, on this one, I worked it in a flat panel. And I don't have the tail fully finished in here, but I had worked it flat, and then we sewed it up the side here. So it's just been sewn up here. Well, I didn't actually finish sewing it, but you just thread this in and weave it in the tail. This is where the loop was cut. And then you just, and for a stronger part here, you could go ahead and like knot this, you know. Sometimes I don't finish everything on camera. My sister wore this as my model, but it was too hot for her to wear at the time in Texas. So anyway, and I can knot that to make sure it's not really going anywhere, and then I can weave in the rest of the tail and then clip it. But yeah, so you can work it in the round, or you can work in a flat panel and then sew it together. And I show that on the video, so check the link out for the bolero jacket. And like I said, I'm going to show you how to finish this off. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this. I'm going to cut these extra loops. I don't need the rest of this. And I'm going to make a tail here. So I'm just going to clip this yarn, this thread in between. Clip the thread in between. And it becomes a tail. We're going to start opposite the tail and take your loop at the end and pull through the next loop. Just take it, pull it right on through. And it makes a little V-stitch. Okay, if you want them running the same direction as the one you started down below, then you would just finish this row out this way and then work in that direction. Okay, but because we're working in this direction, your V's are going to go this way. You see what I mean? Like this end here, we started on this side, so the V's are going this way. Okay? I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to see these different ways that it does it. Okay? So I just keep pulling them across, and there you see the chain. Be sure and look at all your stitches. Make sure you're not missing a loop. And here's my last one. And when I pull through that last one, we're going to go ahead and fish through where I would normally pull a loop. So don't go from the top, but pull through here. Okay. And then we'll tack it down. And when we tack it down, it brings that loop to the back. And then we just pull it through here. Now this is where you have to really inspect your work. It's a different kind of finishing technique than normal knitting or crocheting. So you kind of have to just, you may have to play with the stitches. You may have to like kind of back it in and out. I just use my fingers. I don't actually have a tapestry needle in front of me. I moved my supplies somewhere else today. So I'm going to pull this on through and find the next place where I could probably go up and around. I'm going to actually bring it around this little, I normally don't do this, but I think it's actually going to be better here. So I can follow this line because it's naturally there. And then I'm going to go down here. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Do that again. Let's go up through here. I had undone it. So like now I'm pulling it through that way. And then I can go up through here and tack it in. This little part. So I'm just eyeballing it and trying to follow the stitches, like the natural way the stitches are working around other pieces of yarn, and just follow that direction. See, I'm kind of following. There was a little stitch going that direction, and now I can come back here and follow it. Do you see? And this is kind of a blown out way of looking looking at your stitches that you may want to use. You may want to use this technique to kind of see your regular knitting and stuff, to go, oh, this is how I work around stitches and weave in my tails and knitting, and I can see it bigger. I don't know if I'm wording that right. I'm probably doing a bad job. Anyway, I'm going around. I'm almost done. Okay, so there's that. And then just tuck it in and let it keep going. And with this particular one, I put a little knot in. I normally don't like to do that. I'm going to pull it out a little bit, and then I'll ease the tension in a second. Just because it was a knit tube, I like to kind of get it down to the end, just to make sure that it's really locked in there. And then I'll trim off the end here. Okay. And then I had pulled and cinched it, so now I can kind of get that tension back in. Oh my gosh, that's a really loud airplane. There we go. So now it's going to hide underneath that purl bump here, and nobody's really seeing it. Okay? And then this beginning one that was there, you could do that too, or you could stitch it and tack it down with like a needle and thread if you really wanted to. Anyway, that's what that looks like. So this is the ending. Okay, this is the bound off stitches, and then we were trying to get it to match down here, so it actually puts them up on top because of that first technique that I showed. It's just not the same when you put like technically edge to edge. You're seeing half of that stitch that's on the front, and then you're seeing that part that's stitched together. This part that we were hiding, you're seeing that part. Okay, but isn't that a better finishing technique than having this on one end that's really pretty and then having this kind of raw end? So I think it's a much better technique personally. I'm sure anybody would have come up with it. I just happened to come up with it before I've seen other people, so I just wanted you to see it. So I like this stitch pattern too. It's a 3+2 pattern. So remember, 2 knits, 1 purl, 2 knits, 1 purl, and then 2 more knit stitches. So anyway, I'm going to scroll through, see if I have any more questions, and we're going to wrap it up. Let's see. Yes, they love that retirement homes and women's shelters. They love having simple how-to lesson as well. Give them something to do. You can always start it for them and even do this little finished edge, and then that way they can just keep going as it works for them. Maybe give them some scrap yarn, give them some scrap yarn that they can put through the stitches when they're not working through it. If it has to go off to the side or something, yeah. And they may not, they may like just making something and then undoing it and making something else. I don't know how much you want to give them, but it's up to you, obviously. But I would recommend it. It would be really nice to do. Kristen, would you mind showing the 7-weight yarn that Michael's craft with the big hook? Just wondering how it works up. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll look into that. 3+1 means, okay, so Peggy, when I say a multiple of a pattern, let's see if I can write this down. I've got a pen here. So I have 8 stitches, right? I have 8 stitches. Is this way too bright for this camera? Is this better? Nope. Anyway, so I have 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Let me zoom in. I'll explain what 3+1 means, or 3+2. My pattern is actually a multiple of 3+2. Okay. So we're doing 8 stitches across. All right. I have 1, 2, 3. This is going to be a knit stitch. This is a knit stitch. And this is a purl stitch. There's 3 to make this pattern here. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I forgot I was zoomed in. 1, 2, 3. Then I do it again. 1, 2, 3 to get that again. So I've got knit, knit, purl. Expressed here K, K, P. To make this finish out and look like a mirror or look even or finished out, I'm going to add 2 more knits. 1, 2. So knit, knit. Because if I put a purl, then we're just repeating the pattern. So the repeat is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so these are 3s. And then this is 2. This is my plus 2 to finish it. If I was working in the round and I just kept connecting it and going around and around and around, and I continue, then I would get rid of this and I would just have a multiple of 3 because I wouldn't need to add that. And then the purl would be joined by the, like when I went to the beginning of the row again, I would end on a purl, but then I would start my repeat again with a knit, knit, purl. Does that make sense? So whenever you see a multiple, the first number is your repeated number, and then the 2 or the extra number is what goes on the end, and it's what will make it a finished, a nicer finished pattern. So when you work in the reverse direction, the pattern will work out again too, because I'm going to go across, I'm going to knit, knit, purl, and then finish with 2 knits, and then when I come back, I'm going to do it the same way. Knit, knit, purl, knit, knit, purl, just like that. So I hope that helps you. Hope that answers your question, Sharon. Oh, Sharon's answering the question too. Peggy, thank you. So Peggy, hope that helps you today and somebody else. Thank you again for joining me at Good Knit Kisses. It has been a blast. We will be repeating our broadcast probably on Fridays within the next few weeks and stopping on Mondays. I'm just redoing my schedule. And it's been a couple of years at this schedule, and so I actually need to make a change. So we'll be doing that. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day. Happy knit and crochet. Be sure and subscribe if you haven't. Bye, everyone.